hand out some clipboards.
So hello, thank you all so much for being here today, and for your prayers and your support of our team, and specifically me and my family, as we've lived in Leipzig for the last 2 years, and as we will go back and continue to work there. On the screen here is a picture of our team. I think maybe you know the folks on the right, on your left, Mark and Karen, my wife Miranda's parents. And those are our 2 kids in the middle, Aiden and Arya. Arya is 5 and Aiden is 7. And they can speak German better than all of us. And then the 3 on the far right are the Ryan family. And they are new additions, well, they're not new additions to the team, but they're new additions to Leipzig. They arrived in January, and I'll talk a little bit more about them as we go along. This is a picture of Leipzig to give you kind of an idea what it looks like, kind of old mixed with new. It's located in the former DDR, or GDR as we call it, East Germany, behind the Iron Curtain. It's about an hour by train southwest from Berlin. If you look towards if you find Berlin and you go to the left and down, right near the Y in Germany, that's Leipzig. This is a picture of our neighborhood. You can see it in the red, kind of centered, a little bit raised there. It's called Golis. It's got a circle around it almost. That's where we live. That's where the Abercrombies and us and the Ryans live in Leipzig. It's very intentional for us all to live together. It's very helpful to be right around the corner from the Abercrombies when we first landed. And it's also very helpful to be there with the Ryans to help them. This morning, I just want to share with you all the last 2 years, what we've accomplished, some of the struggles we had, and then I want to show you a small video to give you an idea, give you a feel for what it's like in our city. And then I want to talk to you about what I'm most excited about, the future, our plans, what we have going on, and what we have coming up. So to get started, it all started with 4 suitcases and a carry-on. We cheated a little bit. We had sent 2 suitcases back with Karen and Mark about 6 months before we moved. But this is what we left with. This starts 2007. This was in August 3rd of 2017. The first thing that we did, with the help of Mark and Karen, was get our kids in kindergarten. There's a picture of Aiden opening the door on one of the first days that we were there. And this is on the picture on the right is of their little cubbies and hooks. And that was a huge blessing. There was a lady that Mark and Karen had met. Her name is Barbara, and she had worked in the kindergartens for many, many years and had retired as a director of several kindergartens in Leipzig, in Saxon, the state that we live in. And she was able to help us find a spot, and those spots are very coveted. There are a lot of children in Leipzig, and so it was a huge blessing from God that we were able to get this spot. Even though the kindergarten was about 30 minutes from where we lived, it was a huge, huge blessing. Another huge blessing of that kindergarten was that the Erzieherin, which is what they call, I guess we would call teacher. It's not quite a teacher because they distinguish a teacher in school and someone who works in a kindergarten. But the teacher or daycare worker that was assigned to our children spoke English. It was a huge, huge blessing to be able to immediately talk to this lady, talk to this woman, and figure out what was going on with our children and be able to keep in the loop of how they're doing and what they need and how we can help them. And so that was a huge blessing. Here's another picture of what it looked like in their little room. The next thing on the list when we got there was trying to find a place to settle in, to make our own, our apartment. And this is a picture of that. This on the left is the corner where we live in. You can see, maybe you can't, there's some tracks on the road there. That's where the Straßenbahn runs by. So that's a very good sign. When you find an apartment that is that close to a Straßenbahn line, that means that you have great public transportation. Even though it's a little loud, it took us a little getting used to the city noises, it's such a huge blessing. We're right smack in the middle of two great stops for public transportation. We had great neighbors right away. We met them. They spoke English. She works in a customer service capacity and has to speak English with several people all over the world all day long. And so we were able to connect with them and immediately make friends with her and her husband. And it's right around the corner from the Abercrombies. But this is what the kitchen looked like. And so we had to immediately get to work and take advantage of Mark's skills with his hands, his craftiness, and Miranda and her mom's skills at planning. And within about a month, probably about 2 weeks for the kitchen alone, we were able to turn that into that. And so that was a pretty cool transformation. I had never done anything like that before. I'm not very handy when it comes to that sort of thing. And so that was a really cool project to be a part of. And it came in handy later, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a second. We were also immediately able to make some friends from this side of the world. Up on the top right, you may notice Mark's head and profile there. The guy next to him is a guy named Kai Courtright, and he is an American from Oklahoma. At this point, he'd been living in Chemnitz, a neighboring town, for 2 years. And he immediately was able to connect with us, and we were able to join him in his youth group. He's a youth minister of a church in Chemnitz that Mark and Karen had worked with, and we continue to have a great relationship with. And so we were able to meet some German youth, some German children, some German kids, and immediately get connected with them. And they spoke their broken English with us, and Mark and Karen helped us translate, and Kai as well. He speaks really, really great German. And then the bottom left is a picture of an English women's retreat that Miranda was able to go to. It was women from all over Europe were able to come together, and Karen and Miranda and some other friends of ours were able to go to that and enjoy that. But then things got serious. We had to learn, as Mark Twain refers to, the awful German language. And I say that jokingly because it's actually quite beautiful, but it is hard. It's hard to learn. It caught us off guard. This is our group that we started that journey with. The lady on the far, far right in the bottom corner, her name was Slavica. She was our teacher for the first level. And this was our group of friends. And we couldn't have asked for a better group. We couldn't have asked for a better teacher. We're still quite close with several from this group. I meet with one of them every day. Or not every day, every week. And I will mention a little bit more about that later on. And that pretty much sums up 2017. 2018 was, I wanted to kind of sum up 2018 with a picture, and this kind of does that. Studying, learning this language, but not just the language, the culture. So we had to learn how to do everyday life, and I'm going to talk through some of these pictures. So you see Arya with her little buggy there. We had to learn how to shop. They don't have English on any of these things that you see on the aisle. We had to learn how to figure out, okay, well, that means this means that, and we had a lot of help from our teammates there and from Arya. And then we had to learn how to do normal things for our kids and for ourselves, like going to the dentist. And then this picture that looks kind of gross, it's not gross. That is a bowl of essentially flowers. Arya got a toe infection. And something that we could go to the store here, go to the pharmacy, get some antibiotic ointment, and take care of in a couple of days. Took, 6 weeks? 6 weeks to heal because the medicine there is just different. They're very slow to give out antibiotics, and they're very big into herbal remedies, and that was a huge adjustment. They're also very big on just taking time to rest. And so 6 weeks that's no big deal. She'll just stay at home with mama and daddy, and that'll be fine, and she won't go to kindergarten. Well, that was tough. We had to push this 5-year-old around in an umbrella stroller as we tried to continue to accomplish things. And then, of course, that's Aiden getting a haircut. So not just the language, but also normal life. But we were, during that time, able to plug right into worship services. Here's a group. On the left is a picture from our cake and coffee time. On the right is a picture from our worship time. And every month we have an English Sunday, and I was able to take that over and begin giving the thought every week for that and helping Mark. As when we arrived, he was doing everything. He was doing the singing, he was doing the Lord's Supper thought. Sometimes he would find some help in the congregation, but a lot of times it was just him. And so I was able to pretty quickly help him with that. And Miranda was able to pretty quickly help with the children's class, which didn't exist before we got there. They just didn't have the capacity for it, and honestly, there wasn't enough children for it to make sense. And when we got there, our kids were there. The family that was semi-consistently coming suddenly started consistently coming. And so we immediately had a need for a children's Bible hour during the sermon. And so Miranda was able to quickly help with that, and we were both also able to help doing the normal routines of cleaning, making the cake for cake and coffee, and that sort of thing. I mentioned the Chemnitz youth group. Shortly after we got there and started language school, they wanted to come to Leipzig for a youth retreat and have some fun with us. And these are some pictures from that event. You can see Aiden quickly became best friends with this boy named Timon. And we had a lot of fun having relay races and wrapping people in toilet paper for mummies and getting to know these kids better and getting to share with them our walk with Christ and encourage them in theirs. It was a great experience, and we've made relationships that continue. Shortly after that, it had been almost a year, and Aiden's language was it was progressing. His teacher was very complimentary, but we didn't really know. He wouldn't talk to us. He said, "You guys don't know German. You know English. I'll speak English with you." And so it was very hard to get a feel for that. Well, we had to go to this appointment at the Gesundheitsamt, which is basically like the health office of the city. And he had to meet with a lady, and she had to evaluate him to see if he was ready to start school. He was scheduled to start school in August of that year. And so we went there, and he was a little nervous. The lady spoke English and said if he wants to do this in English, then he can, but I'm going to try to do it in German because it's important. If he wants to go to a German school, which we did. And so she starts asking him questions, showing him pictures, asking him what he was seeing, just sort of, trying to get a feel for where he was at with his skills with the language. And he looked behind, and I said, "It's okay, buddy." We were sitting behind him, and he looked back, and I said, "It's okay, buddy. You can speak English if you need to. She'll understand." And he turns around and does the whole appointment in German. It was amazing. I'll never forget as long as I live, just to hear my child speak a different language and just knock it out of the park. And, after the appointment, she's like, "He's ready to go. He'll start school with the other German kids. He'll be good to go." And this picture right here is our preparations for that. It probably looks a little familiar to the other parents here, but some things are a little different. Like you might notice there's some house shoes on the table. They change their shoes at the door. They don't wear their street shoes into the school. You may notice this little cone thing with a baseball cap resting on it. That's called a Schultüte. Starting school is a huge deal in Germany. They don't all finish at the same time and have a big graduation ceremony like we do here, but they all start school at the same time. So that's when they celebrate. And the Schultüte is one of the ways they celebrate that. They fill it with candy, they fill it with toys and school supplies, and each kid gets one. Most kids get several. They get one from their parents and grandparents, and then they'll have a little party, and they'll get more there. And this is a picture just to kind of give you a glimpse of our preparations for him to start that journey. And then we continued with the language. At this point, we had finished the first, the second, A1, A2, and B1. So the first, second, and third levels of the language. And you can see the group's kind of smaller, and you can see the teacher is different. It's this guy that's right next to me. His name's Dominic, and he kind of shared the teaching responsibilities with another lady named Marie. And so at this point, we had gotten through the first 3 levels of the German language course, and we were feeling like we had a little bit of skills, a little bit of knowledge with this language, and we were feeling pretty good. And then it was summertime, and we were blessed to have Miranda's family, Miranda's sister, and her 3 children come visit. And so these are some pictures from that. We were able to visit some of our supporters that were living in Spain at the time. We met in Germany, and we were able to spend some time with them to visit a castle called Neuschwanstein. And then Matt and Lily were able to come visit. They had received the final piece to the puzzle that they needed to be able to move over there, and so they wanted to come and kind of scope it out. And Lily was expecting Lucy, which you saw in the first picture, and she wanted to try to set up a doctor and get that ball rolling, and they were able to come visit during the summer, and we were able to help them with that process. And then the big day came. I showed you the preparations. This is the big day for Aiden. And you can see on the picture on the far right, we had a little party, and we were able to invite some of the children from Chemnitz, some of the friends from the church, Anniko's and Robbie's 3 girls, and he had a great time. But that wasn't the only big day. Remember I told you that the kindergarten we had found for Aria, or that Barbara and Karen had found for Aria, was about 30 minutes away from our home. Well, Barbara and Miranda spent a day going around trying to find one that was a little bit closer. And they were successful. And this is a picture of that from the outside, and this is Aria doing a really great pose in front of her little cubby on her first day there. If you recall, also I mentioned that I meet with one of my classmates every week. This is him. He is a South Korean man named Dongsik, and you may have heard Mark and others talk about Let's Start Talking or Friends Speak. It's a strategy to try to help people practice their English, and we use books of the Bible. Specifically, Luke is what Dongsik and I use. And so about March of 2018, we started meeting together every week, and I was helping him to better his English. He is attempting to get into the German university, to get in a German university to study physics in Germany. So that's why he was studying German, but he also needs English, because English is also very much a language of science in this world that we live in. And so that's important to him as well. And so we meet once a week. And this was kind of this is a picture from right before we came, but that started in March of 2018. With Aiden starting school and Aria in a new kindergarten, that meant new friendships. And this is a picture of that. Aiden was invited to a birthday party, a little boy named Leon. And that's the picture on the top left. And I think it's Luke, Jesus mentions people of peace and trying to find people of peace. And Leon and his family are nothing short of peoples of peace. Leon is, without a doubt, one of the best friends that I could have hoped my son could have found. There's been several instances where he's helped Aiden, and I pray to God every day, thankful for Leon and his family. And you can also see on the bottom right a little boy named Dominic. And he and his mom are really close with us at this point. They invited us to see a puppet show, and this is a picture from that. And then the picture in the middle of the Halloween pumpkins is where we had invited them to go to the zoo with us. Halloween's not super huge in Germany, but it's getting there. And so, and we really enjoyed that holiday here. Our neighborhood that we used to live in, you couldn't walk through it. And so the kids loved, because of all the kids that were trick-or-treating, and our kids really loved that. And the local zoo put on a little get-together for that, and this is a picture from us in an outing there. And then another picture from Leon's birthday party, and a picture of Elliot and Nolan. They live in Chemnitz. They're in the bottom left. Elliot and Nolan's mom is American, and their dad is German, and so they speak English. And so when our children didn't quite have the German skills to speak to German kids the way that they were used to, they were immediately able to connect to Elliot and Nolan, and they quickly became really, really good friends. And then, of course, we picked up back with the German language. learning. This is a picture of Miranda's class. She started back at level 3 and did a refresher for level 3, and then I decided I was just going to keep going, and I went with level 4, and then finished level 5 in December of 2018. Around this time, we had the idea with Mark and Karen and our team to experiment with some events at our place of worship, specifically a Christmas party. We invited some friends from Chemnitz, but also from Aiden's class, and from our circle, our neighbors. We reached out to them. It was a huge success. You can see Aria there. We had a photo booth. That's Leon's parents, Nadine and Alex. You can see Elliot and Nolan. You can see some pictures of the girls that are part of our church, Annika and Robbie's children, Marta, Carolina, and Alina. And then you can see some pictures of what we were doing, crafts and things. It's a huge, huge success, and it's something that we will continue to do in the future. But that pretty much sums up 2018. I had finished 5 levels of German language. Ren had finished 4. At this point, our language, we really didn't feel like it was holding us back from anything. That was a really, really good place to be in. But we still had a little ways to go, and we still continued with that into 2019. But we really felt like we were hitting our stride. And this is a picture of us in a canoe on a fun day that we had in an amusement park for, I can't remember what we were celebrating. It might have been Aiden's birthday, maybe not. So that's kind of the way I feel about 2019. We're gelling together, where Leipzig has become our home. We've made a lot of friends and a lot of contacts, and we're really excited about the future. And 2019, it started with the Ryans arriving. They arrived towards the end of January, and they're a little bit more high maintenance than us, as you can see with all of their suitcases. But they did have a little baby strapped to their chest as well. But they're great, and we're really, really blessed to have them on the team. And we were able to, so Aiden's in school, and it makes things hard to try to go outside of Leipzig and spend a lot of time outside of Leipzig, but Aiden had a winter break, and we were able to spend some time in a town nearby called Dresden, and just kind of have a team retreat, and get to know the Ryans better, and get to know each other better, and to encourage one another, and to just kind of share war stories from our move there with the Ryans, and try to prepare them, encourage them, and tell them, hey, we're here to help you. This is what we've done. This is what we've seen. And so let's go. Let's get working. And then after that, well, not directly after that, you know, we were doing language school. Miranda was in language school and various other things. So from that point until about Easter, and then around Easter, we were able to drive for the first time since we'd moved to Germany. We had not spent any time driving. And the reason why we drove was we wanted to go visit the Sutherlands in France. So we took a week for Aiden's Easter break, and we rented a car, and we drove from Leipzig all the way across Germany to the chateau, as the Sutherlands affectionately refer to this building on the right. And we were able to visit with them, encourage them, and receive encouragement from them. And that was a great experience. To get to see the home that they are working towards making ready and continuing to make ready, and to use to help missionaries across the world be encouraged, be renewed, and restored through their ministry there. It was really great to be a part of that and to see that. We also continued to meet with friends that we had made. The picture on the right is a lady named Ines that has become really good friends with Miranda. Miranda tries to meet with her once a week, once every other week, and she is very encouraging and helpful in Miranda's pursuit of conquering the German language. She speaks great English, but refuses to and helps Miranda with her German. The picture on the top left is a picture from in my opinion, was a very bold move on our parts. Aiden school needed volunteers for a healthy eating day at the school to help them with some crafts and with the events that the teacher had planned. And Miranda and I volunteered to help in a German first grade to have little crafts and events. Whew, man, I remember that day. I was very, very nervous. But we did it, and it went great. And we were able to talk to the kids. We were able to understand them. And it was a huge encouragement to Aiden's teacher and to the kids, but most of all to us, to be able to feel like, hey, we can do this. We can volunteer in Aiden's school and conquer these normal things. And then the picture on the bottom left is a picture from Dominic, the little boy that we went to the puppet show, a picture from his birthday party. And right around this time, Aiden came to me, and he was disappointed that in our church, it was mostly girls, mostly little girls. And you know, that tugged on my heartstrings quite a bit. And so I got to praying about finding a little boy, or more than one little boy, ideally, to start coming to our church so Aiden would have a friend. And right around that time, we started taking Dominic to church every week. And so that was a huge, huge blessing. We asked his mom if they would be interested in coming, and she's like, well, you can pick up Dominic and take him. And so that's what we do. Almost every week, we will pick him up, and we will take him. We try every week, but sometimes it's a little difficult, especially on the weeks where we do English, because he doesn't speak English. And he's been relatively consistent in coming with us. It's been a huge, huge, huge blessing. Remember, I talked about parties and how successful we had been with those. Here's our second one. It was an Easter party. And you can see we had some new faces. We were able to meet some friends that Matt and Lily had made in German class. And that was a huge blessing. And then after this party, the Ryans found a place to live. And remember, I told you I was going to get to use some of those skills that I had acquired. This is it. This is where I got to put some of them to the test. You can see a picture of Matt and I working and it coming together, and then here's what it looks like. I think it turned out pretty great. Matt and Lily are very pleased with it. And so they are settling in, and they're right around the corner from us, kind of right in the middle of where Mark and Karen live and where we live. So right there, smack in Golis. Right around this time, I decided that I was going to do something absolutely crazy and dip my toe into giving a sermon in German. That rhymes. And Miranda also started helping in the kids' class, doing that every week in German. And here you can see her mom and a big group of kids. I tell you, kids are such a huge blessing. And they're such a great, I don't know, resource is not the right word, but just they have been just, God has blessed us extremely with putting us in contact with children, and through the families of the children. And they've been super receptive, and just goes back to what Jesus said about the people of peace. And we've been able to find them. Please, please, be looking for them in your life. They're there. Now, speaking of people of peace, this is a picture of JP and Arya and Aiden, and I believe that's Chip and Chet, the guinea pigs. JP and his parents have been friends of Mark and Karen since they moved to Leipzig, so almost 10 years now. And we were able to quickly become close friends with them as well. And they have a little garden area outside of the city that they go to most weekends during the summer, and they needed some help there, and we were able to go and help them with that outside, and we were able to build our own relationship with them outside of Mark and Karen. And that's been a huge, huge blessing to continue those relationships that God seems to have put in place before we even arrived. because Aiden and JP and Arya and JP are such good friends now. And that's been such a huge blessing for our children to be able to go to this place and immediately have friends that they can have and friends that they can enjoy. God is so good. Shortly before we came on this trip, we had our third party. Oh, wait. Nope. Sorry. My slides are a little out of order. This is a picture of Aiden and his friends walking to school. That's also been a huge blessing. We'll walk to school with Aiden every day and talk with the other parents that are also along the way taking their children to school. But about 2 weeks ago, Aiden and his friends decided, we're a little big to have our parents take us to school. We needed to be doing this by ourselves. And the German parents said, yeah, you're right, you do. And we said, no, you don't. We're not ready for that. That's just too big of a culture shock. We're not ready for that. And so we compromised, and we walk a little further back, about 2 car lengths back away, and let him feel like he's walking by himself. But the time will come. There are hardly any second graders that get their parents or have their parents walk them to school. And so please pray for us in that. That's going to be difficult, especially for Miranda. But like I said, third party. This is some pictures from that. You can see also some different faces, some people that Karen, or a lady and her son that Karen reads with to help practice her English. The family that Lily met in her language class came back. These have been such a huge success, and we will continue to have these in the future. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So that kind of sums up 2019. There's a lot more there. I wish I could share, but in the interest of time, that's kind of all that I have. At this point, I want to show you a quick video. There's no sound, and I just want to kind of talk through it and kind of share you. I apologize for the jumpiness. I tried to speed it up, again, in the interest of time. Maybe click on it. That might work. Yeah. If you scroll down with the mouse, it might be a little play button at the bottom. I'm not sure what it's done. Oh, there he goes. Cool. Okay, so this is us leaving our apartment, going down the elevator, which that's crazy to have an apartment with an elevator, but it comes in very handy. As you can see, there goes the Straßenbahn coming down the street, which is why we hadn't driven in a year and a half, is because those things run every 10 minutes, and there's no need for having a car. You can see across the street there was our grocery store that we go to. And here we're on our way. We're walking. You can see we're crossing several streets. Again, children, a lot of kids in first grade even, do that by themselves. We're coming up to a park. This is called Brett Schneider Park. It's a huge park with a pond that goes way further back, several blocks. And this is right next to Aiden's school. They have several events there, and they'll have picnics there. And here we are coming up to Aiden's school. It's this big building in the back that's several stories high. This building with the ivy on it in front is a kind of a sport hall. It's a place where they keep sports equipment and things. You see the cross guard there. This walk with slow children takes about 15 minutes. I've made it in 7 minutes, carrying Arya on my back once when we were late. And here we go. Now it's Arya's turn to go to kindergarten. We have to go the other way, and we have to catch the Straßenbahn. So we're trying to hurry, but we're also trying to make this video and, have Arya, whose legs are a lot shorter than ours, and we missed the Straßenbahn. There it goes. But it's okay. Like I said, they run every 10 minutes. This is how they deliver mail on those little bikes that you saw there for a second. You have to watch out for bikes. A lot of people ride bikes. And here comes the next Straßenbahn. And you can see this is right in the morning, rush hour traffic, lots of people getting on, lots of people getting off. And here we are riding the Straßenbahn. It's only 3 or 4 stops up the road from where we live. The Straßenbahn was being repaired, the tracks, and we had to do this on foot, and it was about a 30-minute walk, but it's about a 3-minute ride on the Straßenbahn. So we were very thankful that when that Straßenbahn was repaired. And here we are at Aria's kindergarten. So she's off to continue having fun at kindergarten, and here we are walking into the city. I'm going to give you an idea of how far away we live from the center part of the city. Here's a church, a massive old cathedral. It's called the Michaelskirche, or the St. Michael Church. This big dome on the right is part of the zoo. That dome is this big climate-controlled area that they've turned into a tropical rainforest. It's called Gondwanaland, and it is really nice in the winter to be able to go into this place that's climate-controlled. It's about 78 degrees Fahrenheit when it's less than 32 outside. Here's the entrance to the zoo. And here we are back on the Straßenbahn, heading into the center of the city. Most cities, big cities in Germany, are kind of set up like a wheel. You have the center that's kind of the circle, and then you have all the Viertel, or quarters, or neighborhoods that kind of spoke off of that, like spokes on a wheel. You notice these children that are getting off the Straßenbahn. They're on a field trip. They don't have school buses. The children at school take the public transportation as well whenever they go to events and field trips. This big building that what? Yeah, it's a little scary. This big building that we're going in now is it's called Hofe en Brühl. It's a big giant mall. One of the things I talked about, remember, was haircuts, and we needed to find a place to get a haircut, and I actually met a really great, I want to say stylist, haircut, Friseurin is what they're called in German, at this place, and she spoke English, and we became really good friends. And at one point she said, "So are you trying to learn German?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in German language class." And she's like, "Oh, okay, we're not speaking English anymore." And so she refuses to speak English with me and quizzes me and helps me practice my German quite a bit. It's a great lady to have met. Here we are leaving that shopping mall and heading into the center of the city. You see the cobblestone streets, lots of deliveries being made. This was early in the morning. And here is what's called the Marktplatz. That building right there is called the Altes Rathaus, which is the old town hall. They're having a wine festival, I think is what they have. Usually on Fridays, I think this was a Friday, they have the farmers market here, where neighboring farms and shops will come into the center of the city and set up booths so that you can buy them. Here we are continuing down, and that is the Thomaskirche. It's one of the famous landmarks in Leipzig. It's very famous for Johann Sebastian Bach, who's a famous musical composer. He spent a lot of time there, and they're very quick to tell everyone that he did. Here's where they moved the market to. This is Augustusplatz. Usually this is in that main Marktplatz near the Altes Rathaus, but they had moved it that day, and we walked over there and tried to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, with flowers and lots of sausages and vegetables. And now we're walking towards the other side of that circle I mentioned to go to where we meet, to our what we call the center, to where we have worship services every Sunday. And a lot of times we'll use it during the week to meet with people to practice English, or to just to have events like we have a game night once a month, and we'll use it for that as well. Lots of construction happening. That crane right there in front of us is a crane that's working on this other church, this other massive church building called the Nikolaikirche. That's famous for Bach as well, but it's also famous for the revolution that started, the process that eventually ended with the Berlin Wall falling. A lot of those plannings, and they have a big monument there that's reminding people that a lot of that started in the basement of that church. We walked around the corner. We go into this area that kind of looks like you're not supposed to be there. We go up to the 5th floor. Really, it's the 6th floor because they start counting floors at 0, kind of like computer science. And this is where we meet. When you walk in, there's a little garderobe, which is where you take off your coat, your shoes. Here's the the classroom where the kids meet, some crafts on the wall. You can see the table there that Mark uses to meet with people during the week. Here's our little kitchen area. And yeah, gives you an idea where we meet for worship, where we have cake and coffee. In the interest of time, I'm just going to kind of, could we go back to the slides real quick? Because I want to make sure before I let you go to mention the future. Can we get to the next slide? I may be messing you up, sorry. I was clicking the button. Well, anyway, I'll just say it. So that place that I showed in the video, we have to leave that place. We were subletting that, where Mark and Karen were. Yes, this is the picture that I wanted on the screen. So this is our new place. The man that was renting us or subletting us our old place has to move because they've raised his rent too high. And he's never once asked us for more money. It's a huge blessing, a huge God thing. But they eventually raised his rent too high to where he actually has to physically move and find a new location. It's in the center of the city. That's prime real estate, so it has been a huge blessing to be able to afford that at all. Remember I showed you that circle of where we live, a place called Golis. Guess where this new place that we found is? It's in that neighborhood. It's a 12-minute walk from where we all live. It is right across the street on the bottom floor, right across the street from a grocery store on the bottom floor. There is a high school that's 2 blocks away. There's another grocery store behind it. There's 2 Strassenbahn stops right behind it. We're going to have a lot of foot traffic. We're going to have a garden place to build a playground or to have grill parties. And we have a party planned for this fall that we are going to say, hey, we're here. Come meet us. We're going to meet the neighbors because there are people who live here nearby. We're really excited about the future of this. And when we get back, that's what we'll be doing. Right now, they're working on fixing it, adding another bathroom because there's only one. And we will be working as soon as we get back to make this ready so that we can begin worshiping there and using this facility in the future. So we're really excited about that, and we're really hopeful that it will continue to help us work to our overall vision for Leipzig, which is a fully functioning community of believers, specifically in Golis, which is the name of that neighborhood. And we want it to be theirs. We want them to step up into leadership. We want it to be their traditions, their culture. We don't want to transplant our American culture there. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us and to listen to me and to hear about the work that we have going on there. I'm not sure why that text there is blue. It should be white. If you want to continue following us, the best way is through our newsletter that we send out once a month. You can get to that through teamleipzig.com/Nash, or you can reach out to me today, and I can write that down for you, or my email address. It's richard@teamleipzig.com. Again, thank you so much for your support. Without you all, none of this would have been possible, and none of the things that we have planned in the future would be possible. So if you have any questions, please come find us. We'll be here today. Thank you so much again. God bless.